The Battles of Beleriand is a mini documentary series that covers the great battles which shaped the fate of Arda's mythic First Age, the consequences of which would be felt throughout the history of Middle-earth for the next 6 millennia. Every episode features a brief rundown of the context and aftermath of each major conflict, and includes a real-time reenactment of the battle created by the Silmarillion Total War community. The year is 1495 of the Years of the Trees. Melkor, the first Dark Lord, slew the 2 trees Telperion and Lorelin with the aid of the great spider Ungoliant. Together they stole the Silmarils from the hoard of their creator, Feanor, greatest of the Noldor, from his fortress at Formenelos, slaying Finwë, High King and father of Feanor in the process. This act earned him the name Morgoth, meaning the black foe of the world, by which he would ever after be known amongst the peoples of Middle-earth. After making good his escape from Valinor, the Dark Lord landed in Middle-earth. Morgoth took up his seat at his ancient outpost of Angband, and raised up the peaks of Thangorodrim in the Iron Mountains in defense of his fortress. In the long epochs since he had been absent, his servants had not been idle. Sauron and Gothmog remained unaccounted for after the destruction of his original stronghold of Utumno, and the foul race of the Orcs had multiplied unhindered in the deeps of Angband. His legions were ready, and eagerly awaited to be unleashed upon the rich lands of the south. Arrayed against Morgoth were the Sindar of Doriath, the Lyquendi or Green Elves of Osiriand, and the Falathrim, who inhabited the coastal lands to the southwest. However, even though the elves were numerous throughout the starlit lands of Beleriand, they lived mostly in scattered communes, far from the centralized power of Doriath or the havens of the Falathrim. For many of the firstborn, the coming conflict would be their first taste of war, and the suffering Morgoth would bring to Middle-earth. 20 years later, in the reckoning of the Years of the Sun, in 1497, Morgoth was ready to launch an assault upon all of Beleriand. Drums beat beneath the depths of the Iron Mountains, and the iron-shod legions of Angband issued forth to war. Morgoth split his army into 2 hosts, sending powerful hosts through the pass of Sirion to the west to assail the Falathrim, while simultaneously sending a force through the eastern pass of Aglon in order to cut off and isolate the Sindar from the Lyquendi. This week's episode will focus on the conflict in the west, between the Falathrim and the Orcs of Angband. Círdan and his people sallied forth to meet Morgoth's armies in the field, rather than endure a long and grueling siege, which they were unlikely to win. Unfortunately, the heavily outnumbered elves were defeated and driven back into their havens, and besieged despite their valiant efforts. The siege of the havens would later be lifted with the unlooked-for return of the Noldor into Beleriand, which would throw Morgoth into a panic and force him to lift the siege and redirect his western army against Feanor and his host. Unfortunately for Morgoth, this army would be ambushed at Aethel Sirion by Maedhros and his brothers, surrounded and subsequently destroyed to the last man. Today, however, is a second chance at life for the Falathrim, 2 versus 3, created by the Silmarillion Total War community for your enjoyment.